Okay, we should be live.
Yeah. Okay, good morning on this nice sunny Friday morning. It's July 23rd, 2021. The time is 10:03. And this is a joint meeting of the policy subcommittees and the Equity and Diversity and Inclusion Subcommittee. Roll call of the Equity and Inclusion Subcommittee. I can call it.
That would be great. I was going to say I don't have the list in front of me.
Anthony D'Ambrosio.
Here.
Susan Gravellisi.
Here.
And Stacy Rizzo is here. Roll call of the Policy Subcommittee would be Fred Sinella.
Here.
Susan Gravellisi.
Here.
And Stacy Rizzo, present. Also in attendance is Dr. Diane Kelly and Dr. Lorenzo Garcia. So the first item on the agenda is the recommendations that we received in May from the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee. And I'm hoping people had time during the past month to maybe look through it. On this agenda, like I said, it didn't necessarily have to be everything that we spoke about, but they're just things that as I went through, I wanted to talk about. And if anyone has anything more they'd like to add, that's great. We would like to get back, send this off to a regular school committee meeting so that Dr. Garcia and that group can have that and follow through with some of the plans that they would like to have. Anyone have any questions to start off with? Does everyone have a copy of the updates that they gave us? Fred, I know you have. Fred, I know you have it right in front of me.
Stacy, from the equity audit, you mean?
No, not the equity audit. The presentation that they made to the Equity Advisory Committee.
Oh, yes, I have that one too.
Okay. I sent a copy this morning too, electronically.
That's right too. Thank you, Doctor.
No problem.
So the first thing was the education growth and professional development. My question, and I'm glad that Dr. Kelly's here, I just wanted to know what types of professional development were going to be offered this year. I know there's usually a variety, but.
Yeah, and there will be again this year. And one of the things that we're going to do at the August meeting, the curriculum directors, Christina Porter, Dr. Porter and Dr. Costa, along with Brianna Supis, are going to be giving a full presentation to the school committee on professional development for next year. They're working on pulling a full plan together so that we have the whole scope of PD for the entire year. They're working with principals. So it's going to include what's going to happen at principal meetings, director meetings, PLG time, all of that. So we'll have a comprehensive vision. But Dr. Garcia has already contracted to provide restorative practices training and some other training. And you might recall that when we had our comprehensive program review from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in 2019, one of the things that they told us that we had to work on more was reviewing our curriculum and materials for bias. So we did a presentation to you on that in late 2019 and actually had started that work with teachers and administrators in late 2019, early 2020, which was just before the pandemic hit. And like a lot of other things, we weren't able to fully realize our vision for that in the remainder of the 2020 school year. But we have, as part of our plan, that at 3 points in the school year, we will be reassessing curriculum and looking at additional curriculum materials to vet them for any kinds of bias according to what was set before us from DESE. So if you want, I could either review with you now, or I could add that to the meeting agenda in August to review what we've already done. We did a full professional development for all staff on how to assess for bias And we used a form. It wasn't the same form that the Equity Advisory Board had submitted for our review, and which Committee Woman Rizzo sent to us all yesterday in preparation for this meeting, but it's very, very similar. And we did that professional development at a district level with all administrators and with all literacy and math coaches and consulting teachers. And then the principals repeated that professional development for all staff at a principal meeting in January of, well, our work with administrators was in January of 2020, and their work with teachers was in February of 2020. So I don't know if you want to take a quick look at that now, or.
Does everyone want to review it so that the public can see it at our August meeting? What's the will of the Policy and Diversity Committees?
Oh, that would make sense. That way there it's available.
That way everyone is hearing and seeing the same thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Susan?
Yep,
Do you-
that sounds
Okay,
good.
and Mr. D'Ambrosio?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I was just curious, I know we don't have access to the educational growth site, the menu, the drop down.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that was under the education growth. Can you give us some idea, because it says they have to pick one of their, what's the word I want? It says
Goals?
when they're doing their
The goals.
goals, one
Mhm.
of them would have to be on equity. What are the other ones from the drop-down menu?
So there is a large variety. I could try to pull that up and show you that too. There is a list of about 15 goals that they can select from, and they have the option to either choose one of those goals or write their own. And if they write their own, it just gets approved by the principal and has to be aligned to the district and school improvement plan.
Okay. Maybe if you could just send us a copy instead of having to go through all that,
Okay.
you know, just to review. I just wasn't sure.
Yep.
Anyone have any questions on the education growth and PD? No? Okay, seeing none, I'm going on to bias and sensitivity. There were a few items there. And a lot of these items, it's not really up to us to discuss. I mean, not to discuss, to vote on, but a lot of them is approval. So the first one would be the curriculum audit. Basically, I'm thinking it kind of should be referred to the personnel subcommittee, because they're the ones that have the guidance over the curriculum if anything's changed or anything, and maybe do a joint meeting with the diversity.
Well, that is kind of the work that I was alluding to a couple of minutes ago. That's the work that we started back in 2019.
Mhm.
And we do have a form that we've been using to actually assess. Maybe I can just show that quickly. Let me see if I can pull that up, just to give you an idea. I know that the Equity Advisory Board had recommended the Cincinnati model, but we've actually been using the Washington State. Let me see if I can just share my
The
screen.
Washington one's good.
They're very, very similar.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, all right. So this is the document that we shared. Let's see if I can make this move. With all of our staff, and that we've been using since 2019 to vet materials. And like the Cincinnati one, it's a comprehensive document that has a lot of information, but it starts with this checklist of different things that you should look for. And let me go back up for a minute. This was applied to all of these different kinds of instructional materials: textbooks, reading books, articles, computer software, videos, music. And it has, I won't read through all of these, but check the illustrations and it gives you the 3 target areas to check for bias. And a key one that we've been zeroing in on is who's doing what and whether or not it makes, you know, women and BIPOC people have subservient roles in the pictures or the illustrations. And then the same kind of check for the storyline. So I'll just scroll through this. This is what we have been using. And then a key thing with the author's perspective, and a piece that we did a lot of work on with administrators is making sure that it's giving more than one side of a story and not, you know, leaving some of the information out.
Nice.
And so if I go quickly, it gives all these different pieces to look at for bias, including the omission that I was just talking about. And it has this check form, which I think is very similar to the Cincinnati one.
Scorecard.
Yep. That you can use for each of the documents. And it goes through, I should back up a little bit. It goes through gender and sex.
It does look a little bit easier.
Yeah, a multicultural and persons with disabilities. Socioeconomic status, family, and then it's a whether or not you recommend this book or article, whatever the case may be. And then it amends with the Washington state law, which is not the same as Massachusetts, but very similar, which is one of the reasons that we pulled that document.
Oh,
So we
was...
like, one of the things that Lorenzo and I could do is really look at that document that we've been using and compare it to the Cincinnati one and see if we feel like it's significantly similar enough to continue using the Washington, or if we want to make a switch, or if we want to somehow combine them.
I was going to say, maybe you could tweak it to add what you like from something else.
Yeah.
So,
But,
yeah, if I may, Christina Porter.
Sure, Becca.
Yeah, so Christina Porter sits on the, you know, the committee that addresses issues regarding sensitivity and bias. So she's the one who proposed this framework, but we can certainly compare and contrast similarities and differences, and then maybe come up, you know, either pick one of them. And whatever we pick, I think they're all robust documents. They're good.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter.
It's more than what we have. So.
And I think like the important thing is, and this, some of the people on the committee might not know this, because we basically spent a whole year in hiatus from that work because of what was happening with the pandemic. People might forget that we had just started doing this before the pandemic started. And so when we re-engage them with that, you know, that might refresh their memory that we were starting to do that. Oh, you're on mute, Stace.
Anyone have questions on the scorecard or the Washington model for equity?
No questions, but I know, Stacy, you sent us the Cincinnati one. Did you send us the Washington one?
No. I didn't know they were using it. I've read it.
Yeah. What I can do after this meeting, in preparation for the August meeting, I can send you the two. We have like PowerPoints that we did to train people. I can send you the PowerPoints that we did with the administrators and coaches, and then the principals did it with teachers after that. And I can send you that Washington document that we were using at that time, just so that you can look at them. And also before the August meeting, Lorenzo and I will look at the two documents and have a recommendation ready for you in August on which form we either want to continue to use, start use, even create our own, merging the two of them.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Does everyone agree with that? Fred,
Yep.
Anthony,
Sounds good. Yep.
Sue?
Yes, good.
So now we're on to Read Across America. And I mean, we've always called it Read Across America. It's always been the title for that day. I don't think we've ever called it as a district, Dr. Seuss Day. So my question,
Yeah,
okay, I'm
I was
sorry.
going to say we haven't. You're right. We've always called it Read Across America, but we have done things like use the cat in the hat for the symbol. Do you know what I mean? So like, would say
Yeah.
Read Across America and have a picture of the cat in the hat.
Mhm.
So like one of the things that we could look at, because it's Read Across America, doesn't mean it has to be a Dr. Seuss book that we're using.
Right.
In fact, I know that a lot of the people, when they visit the classrooms to read as a guest reader, as I've done, I often use the places that you'll go, or, you know what I mean? There's so many other things, or even, I can't think of the name of it. What is the fish book with the different colored scales?
One fish,
Fish,
two fish.
two fish, red fish, blue fish.
Not that one. The one that talks about being different. And it has the one sparkly.
Oh.
I don't know why I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's not a Dr. Seuss book. And my point is that we don't all read Dr. Seuss books, right? So we can Read Across America without using the Dr. Seuss symbols,
Right.
you know, and still do, you know, still use some of Dr. Seuss's great books, but not the ones, as the Equity Advisory Board pointed out, that have been identified for bias.
I know. I always read his book, I Don't Want to Get Out of Bed Today, and that's so I could go to the school in my pajamas. So it kind of worked out really well. I don't mind picking a new book, but the only thing I worry about is, are we going to not put an end or curb the Dr. Seuss set up when you come into the schools, as far as teachers dressing up, or like Beachmont has a beautiful display out front of Dr. Seuss, Whoville, and same thing, Wayland does the same thing. Is that something that the Equity Board has talked about doing away with?
I can address that, if I may.
Thank you.
So yes, they, based on our conversation recommendations, they basically want to get rid of those imagery and dresses, hats, and so on and so forth. The same way we do not praise any other author of color. It should be a neutral. Schools need to be a neutral ground. We can certainly, that really reflects all cultural identities and all types of experiences. The Equity Advisory Board believes that if we, if we continue to use Dr. Seuss' image, especially the clothing, I mean, the hats, I personally went there several times, and I'm sure you all did, reading to books, to kids, to the faculty, and especially to the kids. I think that those images needs to go away, because if they don't go away, it's like basically masking the problem. We're not addressing the problem. And we're not, just to go back a little bit, we're not, certainly we're not, there are great books written by Dr. Seuss. We're not canceling culture, but there are 6 books that even the National Education, the NEA has flagged as being highly discriminatory, racist, and you can click actually on the link that is on the PowerPoint. You'll see those books. It's really, I read some of them very quickly. There are some languages that's highly biased, very offensive, that are very, very troubling. So those are the books. Even Dr. Seuss Foundation has come out and condemned those books. Those are the books that we need to get out and basically cancel right away. We don't want to use those books. But there are great books written by Dr. Seuss. We're not canceling him. We know that he's a great writer. He's done, many schools, many people in in this country and throughout the world love Dr. Seuss books. It's not a matter of canceling, the college. It's just a matter of being really sensitive to the population we serve. And those 6 books, we want to make sure that they are basically canceled. We're not. The committee feels that, we should not be using those in our classrooms. Regarding the clothing, I think that needs to go away as well.
Or even embrace other authors, like, what I mean? We could encourage staff to, if we want to have a dress up day, to dress up like other great authors that might represent our kids better, encourage our kids to dress up. We should be introducing them to authors that look like them, so that they can be inspired by those authors, and realize that we appreciate those authors as much as we appreciate anyone else.
Agreed.
And can I just say, though, I do have, those books need to go. That's without a doubt, they need to go. How do I put this? I mean, my boys always grew up and we're trying to teach them the love of reading. No matter what it was. I didn't care if it was a comic book. I just wanted them to love to read. One of the big things, especially in the elementary school, is that imaginary image that you see when you go into the lobby. And they get excited about that. And they get excited about people. I mean, I think it's kind of defining, I'm trying to put this, like when you did book reports when you were younger, they told you which 3 books you had to read, or how you had to do your book report. And if we're not looking at the whole child and letting them enjoy, even if it's just the imaginary Whoville in the front lobby, I hate to take that away. I understand the books completely.
Yeah.
I understand there's great authors from all around. I think different themes would be great, but I would hate to say, let's not do that.
Yeah.
No, and I think that what Lorenzo is saying is that we can still do things like that, but it doesn't have to be a Dr. Seuss theme. Like if we're doing Read Across America, the theme could be, I don't know, I'm even thinking of like, there are books about Dory and the Disney books and that stuff. That would be a great, fun thing to come in and walk into in the morning. And
well, no, I do. I think it's great to have different themes. I mean, and not every school is artistic as maybe the Beachmont. It's almost like a competition who can put out more stuff in the lobby, and they do gorgeous work, but maybe to give them a list of ideas for themes and stuff like that they can work with their art and music teacher on and make that part of it.
Yeah,
I just would hate to say no vision of Dr. Seuss in the school. That I don't want to see.
No, and I don't think that's what the committee's recommending either. They specifically identified the 6 books. And I think, it actually would be a great idea to let kids weigh in on, what they want that imagery to be. And so maybe that's something that Lorenzo can work with principals on, and then principals can work with the art teacher and the music teacher, like you said, and the classrooms to create some kind of a theme between now and next March. We have plenty of time to start creating materials that then could be used for that reading theme on that day.
Even most elementaries have their 5th grade council. Maybe that's a task they can take at hand and give them the voice.
Sure. Yeah, that's
so
a great way to engage. Yeah, student voice.
Yeah. So, Mr. Sinella?
I'm listening here and everything, and not to say pro, con, and everything else, but it seems that we're on the road to sanitizing everything. And I don't think that's what education is about. If one group feels offended by something, I don't think that should be a priority for the generalization. And it's not in my lifetime, but I hate to think what's coming down the road. And it's coming. It's coming. It's who makes the most noise and who wants to be politically correct. And I think it's going to do more damage than good. So for what it's worth, that's my opinion.
And really, Fred, I think that what we're trying to do is to embrace everybody and make sure everybody is represented, and not that we are focused primarily on, like, if 90% of what we're reading is white authors or male authors, or pick a category, then that's not fair to everybody else. Like, we should be spending time making sure that we're reading books with our kids that represent students with physical different abilities, so that they see themselves in the books and see themselves as a full part of the community and worthy. And the same thing with our students who have a Latinx background, or are African American, or anything. We just want to make sure that we're inclusive and have everybody represented, as opposed to trying to isolate people out. It's not about pushing people out. It's about welcoming everybody in.
But see, that's the problem, is America was always a melting pot. People couldn't wait to be Americanized, whatever that meant. I'm just using a term. And it seems that the goal now is to incorporate everything. And we've become a hyphenated country, Italo-American, Hispanic American, and it's a question in as far as individuality, but it's like buying a product because somebody endorses it. I was never part and partial to that, but apparently it works because Joe Schmo used something and everyone wants to be on the bandwagon. So, I mean, the intent is good, the intent is, but you can't be all things to all people. You got a nation of 400 million people. And if you try to isolate and you try to individualize anything, it's going to be like tires on ice, just keep spinning. I just, again, I'm not faulting what's trying to be done, but I'm old enough to realize that what goes around comes around.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say, when we talk about books of other, cultures or disabilities or anything, the one thing I'm really grateful for is the books that Row had given to the little libraries, and they gave me a set also for our library when I used to be happy in my house until I moved. And I know at one point, one of the children and they live in Everett, but they always came by my house to get books. They took a book and they came to my door and said they wanted to know if I had more books like that, because apparently the little girl's younger brother had some of the special needs that were in some of the books, and she's never seen books like that. And I only wanted to put a couple of books out at a time. And I was just so excited that she was excited that I made sure I gave her all the books and told them to return them to me. So I gave her like 5 books that she said was like her brother. And I was like, you know what? She never saw books like that. She was happy. She was so excited about it. So I do think the books need to be out there. I mean, doesn't mean that every child's going to pick up that one book, but if 1 or 2 children get the joy of reading of something that looks like them, I'm happy with that. I just want them to read and, enjoy it.
Yeah, and I'll just add that it's important for able-bodied kids to see books with students who have different abilities, and understand that to be an okay thing. And it's important for white children to see books that feature a hero who's African American or Brazilian, or whatever the case may be. It all is about understanding each other as equals.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many other things out there that we need to look into. We're talking about, our student handbooks. We're talking about classroom instruction, the bias that teachers bring into the classroom. We're talking about gender discrimination. We talk about, this is a variety of things. It's just a tip of the iceberg. Obviously, we will continue to work with the directors, with the equity advisory board members, the teachers, to ensure that we have a school system whose curriculum instruction and assessment reflect the students we serve. It's all about the history. It's about the context. And if you look at our student population, our diversity, the demographics we have in the city, we cannot keep with the status quo. We have to change it. So obviously, change is always hard. Change always is painful, but this is what is the trend, is the mantra that's going on around, in our country right now. And we cannot ignore those things. I truly appreciate your understanding, because this is certainly we just attended a few days ago, we attended a conference down the Cape. There was a professor from Harvard. She was presenting on the images, the films, the documentary that usually are portrayed in our textbooks, in our books of history, and so on and so forth, and how that imagery, just documentary that basically portrays African Americans or any other minority in a dehumanizing way. So imagine you have those pieces of curriculum in the classroom. I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time here, but this is something I'm passionate about. I have to bring it up. So, and the way African Americans have been portrayed over centuries in our classrooms, in our society, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, if we continue to do the same thing, if our teachers are not properly prepared, and the curriculum continues to be the same way it is, then we have serious problems in terms of really, ways in which students understand their own identity. A person without identity, basically, to me, if you take away my identity, you may take everything away from me. I am an adult person. I'm an educated person. Take that away, a history and so on and so forth, it's a problem. Imagine a teacher is in the classroom teaching a curriculum that really, portrays the whites, I'm just putting out there, the white privilege culture in a way that really dehumanizes them. Imagine an ESL student in the classroom that comes from any Latin American country sitting there and listening to a white teacher, teaching a curriculum that says nothing about him, or basically saying, hey, my history is not there. When Columbus came into the U.S. and he committed all these atrocity and killed so many, Latin American, indigenous people, and so on and so forth, whose story is being told, whose author, views and perspectives are being communicated. What we're trying to do, basically, that child will be, the next thing you know, he's unmotivated. He's leaving the school. He's dropping out. He's not feeling motivated to really pursue his education. There are serious implications. I want everyone to understand there are serious implications when we present a curriculum that is highly biased, that has harmful language in it, that really does not reflect, the culture, identity, the history, the lived experience of our kids. And that's a reason, that's the type of agenda we need to continue to push on and battle and really make sure that, we have a school system that really does justice to all groups. That's all I want to put out there.
Thanks,
Thank you
Doc.
for listening.
Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome.
So anyone have any questions or any comments for the Read Across America, or whether it's the books or whether how we do themes or suggestions? No? Okay. So the next thing, policy and procedures that came up, reorganizing the handbooks, which, we had spoken about before, is having our council look over the handbooks to take out, make sure it's within the law and there's not repetitive or old things in it, but also to make sure it is cultural, I'll learn the word, responsive. So again, like Dr. Kelly had mentioned at the meeting, it is going to take a while to do that work, but hopefully the principals can get started sooner rather than later. I think I'm being approached as a school person. Hi. The school's closed. I don't work here.
What paper, no here or the
Yeah, I don't know. Special ed, we take it to Pick Center?
No, it comes, she's in the right place, but
Okay.
she can either mail it or she can bring it back on Monday. And the
Okay.
office is open from 7:30 to 2.
Okay. 7:30, you understand? Dr. Garcia, help me.
What she's saying, I'm sorry.
Tell her to come back on Monday between 7:30 and 2.
Okay,
Here. At the high school.
Monday, okay. La escuela está encerrada hoy. Tiene que venir el lunes a partir de 7 horas de mañana hasta por la tarde, a las 2 de la tarde.
Okay?
Okay. Victoria.
Yeah.
A las 7 de mañana el lunes.
Lunes.
Monday.
Yep.
Lunes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
I just lost my train of
I didn't even
thought.
put on a mask. Whoops.
It's great constituent services live.
That's right.
Vote for me. Here, sign my papers. I didn't say that. Oh, I'm
Stacy.
sorry. We're on TV. So the handbooks, Dr. Kelly will work with the principals and the administration staff on getting that together.
And also, I know the Equity Advisory Board has a subcommittee that's going to work on that as well. So what I wanted to do is talk to our legal counsel and see if maybe they can do it together and kind of do all of that work at once. But as we did say, it'll probably take us the whole next school year to get through. We'll start with the student handbooks because it's most important for the kids that we have those right, and then we'll move on to the faculty and staff handbooks after that.
Okay, and the same thing, I'd like to be able to look over our J series, the student policies, and with the permission of the policy subcommittee, I would like to include some of our students in that. We need to review them anyhow. There's probably stuff that we don't need in there, even though it's been updated maybe 8 years ago. But just to kind of look at it, and also from the Equity Advisory Board, their eyes. So to have those two set of eyes help us and guide us to make our decisions. So this is policy. So I'm going to say, Fred and Susan, do you agree with that? Or do you have any recommendations?
No trouble with kids being involved. It affects them directly, so I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
I agree with it too.
Okay, great.
Also in the recommendations was to create a process for students, like to communicate their concerns with equity in school. Have, we had any thoughts or progress on that, or, ideas of how we could create that process of communication? That was on, under the bias and sensitivity. Under review,
Right, and
number 6.
And I think I have it down as how to allow students to use their voice, not only with equity, but in any manner.
Okay.
I mean, I'm personally thinking, I wouldn't mind having like quarterly school committee student day that they can come and talk to us about anything. Not really, it doesn't even have to be an agenda. What I loved was the program that
committee, or
I think
like
it should be school
Maybe water and
students.
juice with the school committee.
water and juice.
Oh, why? What were we gonna have?
I said coffee.
Sue said coffee. I don't know that we want to encourage the kids to be drinking
No,
coffee.
and I can't give them caffeine.
Okay.
But we could definitely arrange that. We could set something up quarterly.
I think it
and
would
we
be
could
good.
invite like each school, maybe for the elementaries, it would only be 5th graders, but like,
Mhm.
and then a couple kids from each middle school and a couple kids from the high school, and just come have an open forum.
I think it would be great. I think it would give them an idea of government. I think it's an opportunity for them to be heard. It gives us an opportunity to, they're in the school. They see firsthand. It might be a different set of eyes than maybe the adults see it, but usually
Well, that's
I
what we
listen to the
need. We
kids.
need their perspective,
Mhm.
Exactly.
And, you know, each of the schools does have a student advisory council.
Right.
So they have ways to talk to their school administration when they encounter problems. But I think that bringing that through to the policy level is important for them. I mean, you know, the work that the high school student council did around hats and headgear that we had been working on prior to the pandemic. Like, that's a perfect example of kids who had some ideas and came to the school committee, and you guys were very willing to listen to them. And, you know.
I mean, in a program that I absolutely loved was the one that Susan B. Anthony did with their 8th graders, and they had a series of questions for school committee members, from school uniforms to nutrition, starting day starting later, and it's just a great way to see them get more involved about themselves. It has to do with them.
Right.
So
And so as we do more of that performance task and project-based learning and all of that, we'll see more of those kinds of activities that the kids engage in regularly. And that was part of the new civics curriculum that we implemented this year for the first time. No small feat during the pandemic, but more of that will be forthcoming. And as you know, the committee approved that we have a civics coach at the middle school level to help more teachers engage more kids in activities like that. So that might be a great space for us to capitalize on and help the kids lift their voices.
That would be great.
Dr. Kelly, who's the civics coach?
I believe, and I might ask Dr. Mokaba to say that. I want to say is it Tina Petty?
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that is the Equity Advisory Committee. Are we all in agreement with what we spoke about as far as the policies, the curriculum audit, to work with the personnel subcommittee, or just kind of update them at our next meeting via the personnel? I don't want to take this away from Carol, so it can be an update to the personnel subcommittee from Dr. Kelly and the staff. Anyone have any?
Which bullet are you talking about, Stacy? Sorry.
Which bullet? The bias and sensitivity for the audit, the curriculum audit
Oh, okay.
that you started in 1919.
Yeah.
No, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So your update at the August meeting.
Maybe after that update can inform the next steps that the committee wants.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
That sounds good. Anyone have any other questions or suggestions on item 1? We have the ELL program, and now allowing EL programs in all 3 middle schools. Never understood why it wasn't between ELL and the special needs program. It just seems like, and not even to say it takes those scores of that school down, because that should be just a minuscule reason for changing it. It's just, you need everyone to have the same access.
So I think the impetus was around what you just mentioned initially, and because the Rumney Marsh was tasked with serving so many diverse needs for the students with disabilities, they were not also burdened with trying to all serve the diverse needs of English language learner students. And so initially, I think it was designed, and this predates me a little bit, but it was designed that EL students would go to Garfield and Susan B. Anthony, and Rumney would focus on the students that needed some significant support academically. But we have had EL students at the Rumney for, I'd say, the last 4 years. And we had a part-time EL teacher who was split between Rumney and Seacoast to service those students, because there are some kids who have significant learning challenges who are also English learner students. And this school year coming up, I should say, the committee approved an additional EL position that would give us a full-time EL teacher at Rumney Marsh. So there is going to be a full-time dedicated person there starting next year, so that we can expand the access to Rumney Marsh for English learner students. But really, you know, in the times as we've been struggling financially, it's been more beneficial to concentrate those programs so that you're not duplicating the efforts across a lot of different venues. And it's the same kind of thing that we do with our small learning groups and our ASD program. We don't have an ASD program in every single elementary school because the kids would be split out, but we would still need to duplicate that full staff 6 times instead of 3 times. And so that's where the cost benefit comes in, to be able to provide full services to all of the students in need. It means that we need to think a little bit about where exactly they're located. Instead of having 4 kids in each of 6 different schools, we have 12 kids in 3 schools, in each of 3 schools. And so we're serving the same number of students, but reducing the number of staff that we need in order to deliver those services. So we are definitely moving in that direction, but it's also making sure that the schools have adequate support, especially with high need students, to make sure that they're able to deliver fully the services, and that the building itself isn't either understaffed or over challenged with the diversity of needs in that building. So all kids we do have EL access at all schools, but concentrating our English learner students at the Garfield and the Susan B. Anthony means that we can have full, extensive, comprehensive EL services, staffing, and teams in 2 places instead of 3. So I don't know, I feel like that's a recommendation that probably needs a little bit more review before I would advise the committee to fully adopt it. There are financial implications.
Okay. Anyone have any thoughts, questions on that? No?
I don't have any questions. No.
Okay, and then family engagement. And what I'll do is I'll ask for a vote of recommendation of each one at the end, after we hear from family engagement, what to maybe approve or accept, or whichever. So family engagement, they basically, you know, it comes down to, they picked 3 of the bullets that came right off the original policy, and that's welcoming all people, communicating effectively, and partnering with the community. And most of it is really easy to do. The work is easy, or it should be. And I mean, partnering with the family, I mean, I'm not sure what you mean about turning the school into a hub for the community life, Dr. Garcia.
So we're talking about it's basically opening up our schools to make sure that, you know, I'm sure that we all conceptually and practically, we all believe that our schools have always been open to the community as a hub where, you know, we believe that all families can come and share and enjoy and feel part of it. But at the same time, there are certain segments of the population that still believe that there is still barriers in the system. There's still, that still believe that our schools are still function as a silos. I'm not saying it's true or not wrong. I'm just saying that that's a sentiment that is out there. So they want to make sure that, you know, we continue to do that. That's my understanding. It's basically making sure that whatever we're promoting out there, that we open and really gets implemented in a way that will engage and make the environment welcome to all people. I mean, we have parents that certainly still feel that they are not being engaged. We have parents that still believe, and there will always be there groups that will not be, fully satisfied with us. So it's just more in terms of making sure that we continue the same path, making sure that our schools become really, open to everyone. And, we continue to really implement policies, reinforce what we're doing to ensure that, we got more parents participation, more engagement, for all parents and families. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I think that making the parent liaisons full-time for next year will go a long way in that direction. And a couple of other shifts that we've made, as you know, Shane Johnson, who had been working with families on connecting to social service programs, is now director of the PIC. And having him there with that understanding of ways to engage families and the services that they need, I think will help us emphasize that connection piece. So he'll now be overseeing the PIC and helping with that welcoming kind of attribute that we're looking for there. He's currently in a search for a replacement for his old job. So to have somebody who's still going to continue to do those social service connections. And also we've been, since the EL teacher who had been in charge of testing for when new families come to us, to the PIC, and students need to be assessed for their English language abilities, we are working to replace that position. It's not a teaching position, but it's a non-teaching position, but the emphasis there is also on engagement and working with our new EL director. Lorenzo developed a new job description for that position, which equally emphasizes doing the testing when the new family comes in, but also doing the follow-up after the fact and making sure that the placement is appropriate and that the family feels like they're receiving the services that they need. So they created in that job description a whole new follow-up piece for the testing liaison to check in with families, make sure things are going as anticipated. I don't know, Lorenzo, if I've captured that or if I've missed anything there.
Yes, I think you capture everything. I mean, especially with the new ELL director that came from Framingham. She's well versed in cultural diversity, and she brings a lot of a good wealth, I would say, of knowledge in those areas, even with assessing students, registering new families. She wants to work with the new PIC coordinator. There's a lot of good things that she's bringing to the table. I think that I would say that in the next 2-3 years, you will clearly see, I'm hoping that, a great difference, in what we're doing, to be honest with you, because certainly the new coordinator understands it, the PIC, Jen understands it, and I truly understand it. And I think that we all understand it, Dr. Kelly and everybody, the team, everyone understands it. So I think it's going to be great. I mean, we have the family liaisons. You saw the report that came from Mass Insight, the way families have, they've been praised for the work that they have done. It is just the beginning. I think we're on the right track to success and engaging our families in Revere. So so that's all I can
Jennifer
say.
Lavalita, who you guys met at the last school committee meeting, is who we're referring to as the new EL director, just for folks at home who might not know her name.
Okay, Dr. Kelly, question regarding that. And I respect the work that they're doing. I respect the job description that came up, but can I ask why it didn't go through HR, where we just had that position filled and the purpose of that position was supposed to be hiring?
I don't understand what you mean.
Why the job?
Why did Jennifer? Oh, Jennifer and Lorenzo wrote the job description because they understand what we need in the job.
Right,
And
but it states that everything, all resumes and stuff to go to Jennifer.
Yeah, I
And
mean, we're
I
still
don't know,
transitioning,
when does
right?
the HR person,
We're still transitioning, right? So we still need
Mhm.
to push that stuff out, but Laurie, who's the HR director, is also just getting settled into her job. So Jennifer is the right person to vet resumes because she knows who she needs to do that job and what their skill
Sure.
set needs to be. And then after that, what Laurie has been doing and will even do in this case is onboard the new person and make sure that they have their credentials sent into the office and that they have understood all of the benefits that are available to them and, you know, done all of that piece of it.
Mhm.
Eventually, Laurie will be in charge of managing the resumes and all of that whole piece of it, but we're still in the middle of transitioning right now.
Stacy, if I
Thanks.
may, I have
Sure.
also invited Lori to be part of the Equity Advisory Board. And obviously, as we start the new school year, there are many terms that I'm not making any assumption here, and
Mhm.
she's a bright person, but there are many terms that, you know, are related to specific to the fields, like, you know, the field of English language learners. There are certain things, you know, that probably Jennifer knows very well, and because that's what she does. And the second language acquisition, there are languages there that needs to be embedded. So as Dr. Kelly just pointed out, this is a transition phase. I'm sure that she will catch up down the road.
And I think it's important that you invited her to that, especially when we're looking at how,
I think we lost you,
So-
Stacy. Can you hear us?
for her to get involved in that advisory board also.
We just lost you for about a minute, Stacy. Oh, is she there?
Hello?
There you are.
Oh, now we
lost
have you back. We lost you for about,
We really need to update the technology at this high school. The hotspot isn't working too well. Okay, you know, I don't know if you heard, but I do think it's great that she was invited to the advisory board, since we are trying to especially hire and retain people of color, diverse backgrounds. So I think it's good for her to have some insight on the work that you're doing also. Okay, with that being said, if we could look for, the first one was education, growth, and professional development. I'm looking at Anthony and Susan. Might as well throw Fred in too. Are we in agreement with what we discussed under that?
I believe so. I mean,
Yeah.
there was no
Yeah.
I'm
dissension.
just double checking so I can make an approval. We can make a recommendation to the school committee.
Okay,
Yep. Diane will
Bias and sensitivity. Do we want to approve that to go?
can I just, Stacy, can I just kind of summarize what I think that we said in each area so that I can make sure that I do the right thing between now and August? So on that first one, on the equity and inclusion advisory, the educator growth and PD,
Mhm.
I was going to share at the August meeting, the PD plan, and also the list of pre-populated goals that are available in the educator growth site.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so that's there.
The growth and professional and bias and sensitivity.
Bias and sensitivity. I was going to share the
Washington.
documents, PowerPoints for training, and Washington State review form.
Right.
Lorenzo and I will cross-reference the
Washington and Cincinnati.
yeah. And we're going to recommend that for Read Across America Day, that the lobby displays are diverse and not Dr. Seuss focused. And we were going to ask principals to have their student advisory councils select themes.
So let me ask, in that case, what if Beachmont suggests Dr. Seuss?
I think I would ask them if that was the only thing that they wanted to focus on.
But if we throw out some themes to give them ideas of other things,
Yeah, we can give them some ideas.
and they still choose Dr. Seuss, I don't think we should say no to those students.
It's I mean, I'm gonna say something here. I think it's all depends the way we frame the conversation, the principals frame the conversation to students. Obviously, we want them to express their views freely, but at the same time, they are going through stages of development and growth, and adults should model for them. So they are still young children, and obviously, we as an adult, there are many things that they might not understand yet. And if we model and frame the conversation in a way that, they will understand it, yes, we can still listen to them, have their voice, but I think that that's the way we should do it.
I just want to, I don't want it to make it sound like Dr. Seuss was Bin Laden. I mean, he wasn't. He had good literary work, and for them to understand what's good and what's not good, I think is important also.
Of course,
Mr. Sinella?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I'm a little confused here. A few minutes ago, we just praised allowing kids to come up with their ideas and their views, and we welcome them with open arms. And here we have contradictory. We're in as they're still partial to being influenced by adults who are slanting it what they believe to be correct. So, I mean, let's get it straight. Either we're going to take input, whether we like it or not, and then work from there. But to be exclusionary, contrary to what we feel or somebody else feels, I mean, we're defeating the purpose. I mean, we seem to be moving along in a nice direction, but all of a sudden this comes up with, if I hear it correctly, Dr. Seuss is out completely, good, bad, or indifferent.
That's
Someone's got to make a decision.
Sorry, I know that we've talked a lot about this, and I know it's a difficult conversation to have and difficult topic to have. No one is saying that Dr. Seuss should be eliminated.
Excuse
But
me,
we
he
have
just
heard-
made reference, Diane, he
I'm
just
not-
made reference.
But we
how
have
it's-
heard,
Diane, excuse me, let me finish. How he interprets it to be, how it's presented would be exclusionary. So let's get the story straight here, Diane. You don't have to defend him. That's
Okay.
exactly
Who's
what he
he?
just said.
Okay,
All right. It's
excuse me.
referring to me as I'm going to defend myself and clarify things if I'm allowed. Fred, I'm not eliminating Dr. Seuss. I said all from the beginning that Dr. Seuss has wonderful literature that's admired and used in many classrooms, and a lot of readers use it throughout the world. That's what I said. What I said also is that there are 6 books that needs to be gone. Those books portray students in a very negative way. You can read those books. I can make those books available to you. That's what I said. So I'm not asking to cancel any culture. That's not my goal here. My goal is to ensure that we educate people. And we look at our demographics, what we have in Revere. 70% of our kids come from other cultures. 70% against 30%. Look at our teaching, the demographics of our teachers. We have about 89% of our teachers are white, close to 90%. So what's the disparity there? It's a huge disparity. If the goal is really to create an inclusive, a racially and ethnically balanced school district, and we're pushing for equity and inclusion, then we have to do the right thing. It's going to be change, and change will bring some, obviously, people will be having a lot of misinterpretation that will disagree with us. But if we are serious about this work, that's what we need to do. I'm not canceling Dr. Seuss. I'm not canceling any culture. I want to look for a balanced representation of our students, the students that we have in front of us in our district. That's what I'm looking for, nothing else.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to recognize Anthony D'Ambrosio to speak.
Thanks. Look, guys, I think it's pretty clear here that the bent of this should be that we promote authors of a more diverse background and a more diverse set of authors than have been traditionally promoted. And that's the ways in which, the school should be recommended to go. Does that mean exiling Dr. Seuss completely? No, of course not. But it does mean, actively guiding the choices toward a larger pool of authors who, by the way, also represent the canon of American literature. There are lots of POC authors in American history who are incredibly prominent and have produced work that's just as good and just as influential of that of Dr. Seuss. There are a lot of female authors who have done the same thing. It's not like, we're Xing Dr. Seuss to go with one or two other people. There's a deep, wide pool. The American literary canon is huge, right? And again, I want to hammer on that point. It is the American literary canon. Mr. Sanello a few minutes ago said something about, having a defined idea of what it means to be an American and all that. All of these works that we're choosing from are American works. They're part of the canon. There are lots to choose from. So going forward, I think, I wouldn't even call this a compromise because it seems to be the way in which the discussion was headed in the first place, but guiding the schools toward a direction of choosing from a broader set of authors to display or emphasize. If that makes sense.
It does, Mr. D'Ambrosio. I think what we're saying is, but then you're going to exclude what some of the voices have asked for. I mean, and I'm looking at it from an elementary student that goes into a front door and gets so excited about seeing their teachers and people that they see in school dressed up, and just get that happiness. And that's the part I don't want to lose. It doesn't necessarily have to be Dr. Seuss. But
right. There are a lot of other great options that will engage the kids and excite them even more.
Right. But I mean, if it happens to be one does pick the traditional, I hate to say, I don't think we should say no. I mean, as long as they have you put themes out there. I mean, themes out there, they might have never thought of anything but Dr. Seuss because that's all they ever see. Let them say, oh my God, that looks exciting. Let's try this year.
Exactly.
That's what my hope is for. Ms. Gravelisi.
I think we're putting the cart before the horse because, we're just giving them different ideas of different authors from all different backgrounds. You know what I mean? So to make assumptions that one may or may not pick a specific theme, is just, like I said, putting the cart before the horse, just giving ideas of, some people may be unaware of, they may have specific books that they're very fond of and be unaware of who the author actually is or what their background is, whether they're a person of color or what ethnicity they are. So I don't think we're directing or pushing them into a path of, oh, you have to go with this theme. We're just broadening the horizons and expanding their knowledge of who actually wrote the books that they may already be fond of. You're on mute, Stacey.
Us as adults, I just putting too much, like the kids will form their own opinion. And if they only have one or two things to go by, that's all they're going to go by. If you give them an array of things, now you're allowing them to be artistic and to be original and, and find new things that they might have a joy.
That's the plan, is to give them options and broaden their horizons and even, make them more aware of all the different options out there.
Yeah,
So-
I don't want it micromanaged. I mean, yes, they need guidance, it's still students. But I can't wait to see what kind of things they come up with. I'm looking forward to that. I'm still coming in my pajamas, but. Okay,
The other note I had under that section, Stacy, so just to review, the lobby displays are diverse and not Dr. Seuss focused. Let students select themes, give them some ideas.
Mhm.
And then Diane will talk to legal counsel about work with the EAB subcommittee to set up and implement a handbook review plan.
Okay. And so, which one are we under?
So then we had
Okay,
EL
we did
program
read across. Okay, I'm sorry. So the handbooks, we're in agreement to let the schools deal with the handbooks. They can get back to us when they have some more work done along with the legal counsel.
Right, and the equity
We
advisory
ourselves
board.
can start working with the J series for students. We can start that work as soon as school begins. I mean, it's not going to get done overnight, but that's fine. And how to allow students to use their voice. Is everyone in agreement that maybe we could do a quarterly getting to know you type meeting?
That would be great.
Fred?
Yeah, yep.
Anthony?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Does anyone have something on the discussion of the equity audit the other night? You know, I look at, we know there's an inconsistency of staff. Some believe there is inclusion, some believe there's not enough inclusion. And then the students feel a lack of cultural curriculum, which is something we're already working on.
Mhm.
The rise of high need students at 18%. I really found that disappointing.
Well, you know, I didn't want to make an issue of this when our great partners were doing such a great job with their presentation, but a piece of that is the whole low income to eco-dis change that we've been working on. So a good chunk of that 18% is the changes that the state has made in how they qualify students as economically disadvantaged. You know, so it is an 18% jump, but it's a little bit artificial in the sense that we were pushed way down by how the state was calculating those metrics for the last 5 years. And now as they've been as they've been correcting that problem, we're seeing the numbers come up more. And then of course we have had an uptick in the number of English learner students in the district. So that contributes to that as well. Because students who are identified as English learners are considered high need.
Okay. No, thank you for that. I didn't even entertain that portion when I saw 18%. Okay, the lack of EL professional development and coaching for EL staff. I know I've heard it from the high school level for years. Do we see something more?
Yeah, I mean,
I know we had COVID.
But I think the biggest change that we've made is had a dedicated EL foreign language director who's expert in EL education, which we haven't had since forever, you know. Albert did what he could with that job, but he really had 2 jobs that he was trying to do at once, which was managing the whole PIC and doing the EL work. And I think that what Jennifer Labolita brings to us is some real expertise in that field, and that's going to create a big shift in that the EL teachers at the high school and across the district are going to find a more supportive and knowing colleague who can help coach their work in ways that they've not experienced before.
I do look forward to meeting her. Ms. Gravellisi?
Just like as an overall observation, the district equity audit by Mass Insight, I felt, where they did point out our foundational strengths is a lot of what we are already doing, what we're talking about, which is phenomenal. And I was kind of pleased that this audit was really pretty much in line with the Equity Advisory Board update. Do you agree with that, Dr. Garcia? Whether they were two separate entities and with different, the Mass Insight had a completely different process that our Equity Advisory Board did. And I felt the alignment between the two was really pleasing to me. And I felt that our strengths and weaknesses were all in line with what the Equity Advisory Board had recommended back in May. So I was pleased with all of that. So that was just an overall observation. I know we're going through each and every line, that you're saying, Stacy, but I feel it's all in here as our foundational strengths.
I think it's a great observation, and that will give us more leverage moving forward.
Yeah. No, I was so pleased with this.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot
Mass Insight, I was pleased with.
There's a lot of great things in there, and then there's a lot to make us better too. So it works both ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that they were so much in line. I felt that it was great.
Yeah, it really validates the work that the Equity Advisory Board has been doing for the last year.
It really does. It's just, there was so much that were in alignment that I was really pleased with it.
So when they speak of supports for graduation access and alternative enrollment, could you give me some idea of what that would be about?
So I think that when they were conducting their research and looking at all of our overviews and all of that stuff, we had one ELO coordinator, which was Tiffany Curry.
Yeah.
And next year we hired a second one during the year through grant funding, and we'll have a third one for next year. So rather than have one person trying to help 2,000 kids understand what their opportunities are for dual enrollment or early college or, how to get into the workforce, all of those different pieces, we'll now have 3 people doing that work. So that's going to significantly expand our access for students to get counseling and support in those areas. And we've also been working for the last year with North Shore Community College to establish a formal formal early college program at the high school. And we've completed the first steps of application with the Department of Education. It will take us all of next year to finish that application process, but in the fall of 2022, we'll have a formal early college program where our students in Revere High School will be able to graduate Revere High School with 12 college credits under their belt. So those are things that are not currently in place. And I think that's what the equity audit was looking at. Like our kids have a really hard time understanding what's available to them and how they access it. And just having 3 ELO coordinators now will help make sure the kids are getting the information and parents are getting the information and know what opportunities are available for our students.
Great.
All right, I have a silly question because it's an acronym. What is the ELO acronym for, ELO coordinator?
External learning opportunities.
Thank you.
Sorry.
There's too many acronyms.
I know. And I should add to that and talk about the internships. So the 3 of them, like right now, Tiffany was the only one really who was managing all of the internship opportunities for students. And clearly one person can't coordinate all of that and make sure that those are valuable internship experiences. Having 3 people will help distribute that work and make sure that our kids are engaged in ways that they're exploring different careers and opportunities that they might want to look at through a college major.
I have to say, Tiffany was so valuable. I'll really miss her. And
she's still with us.
Tiffany is?
Yeah.
I thought you went with. Who went with Dr. Mitchell?
Oh, that's Leanne Colora, the assistant
Oh,
principal.
that's right too.
Yeah.
Yep, and just as valuable. Okay,
Jesus,
keep
you just almost gave me a heart attack.
I know.
Tiffany. I'm sorry. Diane, do we do anything, any kind of postgraduate program or an exit survey with our students? Because I was wondering if we did, or if there's any intention of doing it. I know like there was a group of students last year that were talking, they weren't happy with their high school years or anything. And I asked them if they discussed it with anyone at the high school or their mentors or anything. And they said, no, there isn't anything. But I thought someone said there were exit types for the students.
We don't do an exit interview for all of the seniors. No, we don't.
No.
We do our survey every year where the students give us feedback, and this would be seniors too, on their experiences, on their relationships, on their access to supports. You've seen that's the MCIEA survey that we do every single year.
Right.
And we'll have those results coming out shortly for next year. But certainly the students give us feedback on those. We administer those surveys I think it's every April, to get feedback on what the kids think about the school and their experience and the curriculum and all of that. We did a few years back have, as part of the Nellie Mae grant, an Alumni Outreach that we were doing, and we were able to set up a place where alumni could give their email and get updates and give us some feedback, do that kind of stuff, but that kind of went away with the grant. It's probably something that we should explore a little more deeply. And we do have a couple of programs like the One Goal program. You'll all recall that at graduation, there were some kids the last couple of years who crossed the stage with their One Goal sash on. And that's a program it's a partnership program where high schools and colleges work together to make sure students have support through their first year, their freshman year of college. And so we have a couple of teachers at the high school. I think Katie Sinnott is one of them. And I'm not going to remember, maybe Erin Cronin, who were facilitating that program. And so they, as part of that, receive a stipend and stay in communication with the kids the year after they graduate. And so that doesn't obviously touch every single senior, but about 50 kids every year are in that program. And so they have a closer handle on mentoring and supporting them through their first year of college.
And seeing that I'm not in school, my battery is almost dead and I have the plug, but and what steps have been taken to try to attract quality and diverse staff?
And this I would identify as one of our weakest areas. It's another area that we've been working on for a couple of years and had some momentum that was interrupted by the pandemic. You'll recall that we had a team that was going to go to Howard University and attend a job fair there just at the same time that the pandemic hit. So exploring opportunities like that is something that we want to re-engage in. But we have joined the MPDE, which is a Massachusetts group of educators that are working toward equity in the teaching and administrative workforces. And Lorenzo and Dr. Mulligan both attend those meetings and are active members of that organization, which we anticipate will be a great resource to help us diversify, but also support our staff once they're on board.
Great.
I think if I may add to what Dr. Kelly just pointed out, I think one of the things that we can look into next year is to create our own pipeline of educators, especially, for example, I'm going to give you an example. We may identify at the middle school a group of students who want to pursue teaching as a future career. And maybe down the road, those kids can be mentored as they make the transition to high school. And with the proper mentor at the high school, those kids may choose to go to Salem State or go to any other college and come and give to the community. And maybe we can come up with some incentives, maybe support them with tuition, or maybe pay part of the education with a commitment that when they're done, they can come back and give to the community. So that's one of the models that many districts around the country are looking to. I think that that's a great model because you may have a lot of diverse candidates. You're talking about the ESL students. You're talking about maybe even, the mainstream students that want to come and become teachers one day. With a proper support along the way, they can come back and contribute to the community. So pipeline is a natural way of doing this.
And we have, as you know, we have the end of the pipeline set up with Salem State. We have the fifth-year teacher fellows who get placed in the district and work with us for a year. We pay them a relatively small stipend. I want to say it's $10,000, I think it is, for the year. And they are placed with us for a full year internship. And often we hire them after. And so what Lorenzo is talking about is setting up the beginning of that pipeline so that our own students have more access to that program. And by starting in middle school and kind of having, even if it's a future teacher club, that takes them through high school. And as we have that early college program set up with North Shore, they can take some education classes there. We've already talked to Salem State about this. Those classes will transfer into the Salem State program. And then we can help bring the kids right through. Kids who did that, if we get, once we have that whole pipeline set up, would have 12 classes, 12 college credits before they graduate high school that would transfer right into the Salem State program. And then we can take them through that bridge and then do that fifth year with us back in Revere, doing their teacher fellowship. And then assuming they do well in their fellowship, we would hire them onto our staff to fill our open positions. We can't hear you, Stacy. It looks like your phone is trying to connect to audio and your laptop is on mute.
I can't.
Oh, there you go. Now we can hear you on the laptop.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I had brought this up to Mrs. Finn just before COVID. Everything's before COVID.
I know.
So Everett does a program, not so much a program, but they promote those students going into teaching. Here, there's pictures always plastered about who's going on to what college from this sport and stuff like that. This is a day they do, and they promote everyone going off to school for teaching.
Yes.
And they really make a big deal out of it. And I just found that really impressive. Like you saw 28, the last time they did it, there was 28 for that, program.
Yeah. And Jesse encouraged that. We're actually going to do it this year, but it's too crazy this year. But they want us to do like a signing day. You know how athletes do, like they sign their contracts, so we are going to work on getting that established for next year and really encouraging the kids to go into education.
Okay, Mr. Sinella?
Through you to the superintendent, Lorenzo, did I hear reference that we would be paying tuition for these students?
It was just an example, about ways in which we could provide some incentives for students to graduate from our schools and go and pursue a teaching career and come back. There are places where those students they sign contracts with the districts and they come back, they teach, if they want to stay forever, that's great for us if they're good teachers. And if there are many modalities that can come and give 3-4 years, and at least if they are not happy, they can leave. But the goal is to really, motivate those kids, and so that they can become effective teachers, have gone to our district and come back and give back to the community.
All right.
And if I could just add to that, it would be along the lines of what I was talking about with the early college program. So it's not that we're literally writing a check to pay for kids' tuitions. but we find ways to help them get college credits
Diane,
that don't cost us and don't cost the kids.
what I'm at, so they'll come back as teachers. This is an undergraduate.
Correct, yeah.
Because years ago, the state had a program, part of a help loan, that if you went into teaching, they wrote off your student loans.
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering if something else like that has come back.
They do, they still have that. It's not as robust as it used to be. It depends on what you're teaching, how much they give you for reimbursement. Like if you teach math or science, for example, you can get full tuition reimbursement. But even if you're in an urban setting, if you're an elementary generalist, you might not get full reimbursement. If you teach special needs kids, you get full reimbursement. So it's not as good as it used to be, but those programs still do exist.
But with the state looking for ways, this is maybe something Lorenzo, his group or something can kind of bring up to the legislature or the Department of Education. It may sound too simplistic, but money talks.
Absolutely.
And I think that if I mean, I don't know, the Peace Corps years ago, I mean, they did it for little or nothing. But if they want to maintain teachers and stuff like that, it's something was worth pursuing. And Lorenzo, thank you. I didn't realize that there was even something going on, but that's good to know.
Yeah. I think another thing that a lot of districts are talking about, this used to happen a lot in California and other states, but it's becoming a larger discussion in Massachusetts because rents and mortgages are so difficult right now. Is even giving teachers some rental assistance to encourage them to come to a district, and things like that might help us attract a more diverse workforce as well.
But that would be open to everybody. That wouldn't be a specific, so and it's a fine line. It's going to have to be, walked. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything that they might want to ask about the equity audit or bring up? Okay.
And I'll just add that we only just got that report the same time you all did. So I know that Lorenzo still needs to review it with the Equity Advisory Board, and we still need to review it with principals and other administrators. So we still have to dive a little bit more deeply into that. And I think that once we do, then we'll be coming back to the committee and saying, here are some things that we want to do. This came from the equity audit, and the same thing with the mental health audit, or the behavioral health audit, I should say. And once we have time to process all of that came out of those and come back, and even time goes so quickly. Like we're only 4 months away from starting to talk about the budget for next school year, not the one coming up, the one after that, right? So I think in that amount of time, we'll be coming back and saying, for the 2022-2023 school year, here are some priorities that we want to focus on. This is the funding that we'll need for them. And this is how they respond to the information we got back from the Equity Advisory Board, the Equity Audit, and the Behavioral Health Audit.
We will receive a full report this coming week.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to apologize. I was supposed to be at an appointment 11:15. I thought an hour might be enough, but this is so much information and so much work that we need to process and get started. So it was a good conversation. I learned a lot more. So the other two items were the handbooks and policies that we already somewhat discussed. Does anyone have any last questions or comments before I ask for an adjournment? Okay. Dr. Kelly, Dr. Garcia, thank you for all the information, and thank you for answering the questions. Whether we like your answers or not, we appreciate them. It gives us, food for thought. So at this point, can I ask someone to make a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Sinella, second by Ms. Gravellisi. I want to thank everyone for their time. I really appreciate it. And if I left something out, just email me and let me know.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I have to say, this is a beautiful place to have a cup of coffee in the morning. I got to meet so many nice people, although I'm having an issue. 3 stopped and asked where the COVID test was, so I was a little nervous there, but
I went by during the school year to
Great
do
place.
something like that, and somebody told me I should be in class. So
Oh, there you go.
I don't know if that works for all of us.
All
All right, thanks, everybody.
Bye,